Welcome back to the Angry Man podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, it is fight week for Tszyu and Brian Mendoza, although we haven't seen a whole lot of promotion for it, if you will. It is fight week, and I am excited about seeing this particular fight because I want to see Tszyu back in the ring and see his maturation. I'm also curious to see what Brian Mendoza looks like coming off of that win against Fundora. Now, we've seen Tszyu on a number of occasions. We've done videos on some of the comments that Tszyu has made. And I was looking at a video, I think this was from either yesterday or the day before yesterday, and it was Tszyu talking about Jermell Charlo, Canelo Alvarez, possibly moving up to 160, and he even dabbled a little bit in terms of the Terrence Crawford stuff. Now, he did say, I can't worry about those guys right now that are at 47. Got to be concerned about the folks at 54. So that does make sense to me. He is now the WBO champion. And I'm starting to wonder, just based off of some of these interviews, because it seems like every single interview he's talking about Jermell Charlo, whether or not Charlo deserved the opportunity for Canelo, his desire to still get into the ring with Charlo, moving up to 160, a possibility of fighting Canelo. All these things are being said from or coming out of the mouth of Tszyu. But the one thing that I'm not hearing a whole lot in terms of like Tszyu talking is Brian Mendoza. Like he hasn't, even during that interview, he probably talked about Brian Mendoza for 30 seconds. Now, don't get me wrong. Partially that's driven by the fact that Fight Hype was not necessarily asking him a lot about Brian Mendoza. But Brian Mendoza is in my personal opinion, is going to be a live dog in this fight, Jay. He is a live dog. He beat Fundora. He has power. Do I believe Tszyu is the better fighter? Sure, I believe Tszyu is the better fighter. But we've seen Tszyu struggle against, Gaucher, right? We've seen him struggle in the past. So my question to you, Jay, is it possible now that Tszyu has gotten that WBO title, because it seems like he was so driven by just the mere fact of facing Jermell Charlo, is it possible that with the WBO title in hand and still the desire to face Jermell Charlo, because in reality he wants an opportunity to become undisputed and not necessarily be just the WBO champion, could he be possibly overlooking Brian Mendoza? What's your thoughts on that?
He could be. I mean, instead of steering it back to his opponent more often than not, he just goes along with the flow. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and also, although Brian Mendoza got the win against Fundora, Brian Mendoza was losing every round up until he got that punch.
I agree.
So Tim can be like, I could do the same thing. He probably feels like he could beat Fundora as well. And he's like, I can do everything Fundora was doing and doing better. I just won't get like a daisical and get caught with that punch. So it's not like Mendoza just dominating Fundora. It was the exact opposite. So I get a little bit of confidence on that, but Tim has been showing a lot more confidence and a lot more bravado each and every fight since Terrell Goucher. Since that fight there, each fight after that, he's been getting a little bit more bodacious. What's my effing name? He's been coming out to Biggie and some other hip hop artists as well in each fight. So he's really feeling himself right now. I can't be mad at him because he's handling business like he's supposed to. He got rid of Ocampo in the round one. Got rid of Tony Harrison, so he handled what he's supposed to do, and those were similar people that have fought Jermell, another person that fought Spence. So he did everything they did, the same thing to him as well. But you can't overlook Mendoza because although Mendoza was losing every round of that fight against Fundora, you can't deny that dude's heart and that dude's grit. He stayed in that fight. He kept pushing. He kept chipping away at that rock.
He also beat Rosario.
You can never kind of got a fight like that. What's up?
He also beat Rosario.
Yeah.
And Rosario
Mendoza's not an easy win,
Exactly.
Now Mendoza is feeling himself as well. I feel like he has knockout punch. He felt like he has better power, one punch power than Tszyu. So I mean, I think this might be a firefight for a little while, as long as it lasts, because I don't think they're going to hold anything back. So we've seen Tim get dropped by a lighter puncher and Goucher. He got up and watched him the rest of the fight. But he can't slip up like that against Mendoza, because I think Mendoza can put him down and get him up out of there as well. So this is not a 50-50 fight, but it's probably like 55-45 or closer, a little bit closer to that. It's not a clear cut for Tim on this. So Tim can't be sleeping, but the more interviews you see, the less he's talking about Mendoza. He could be overlooking Mendoza. That'd be a critical mistake on his part.
So is that your official prediction that you got Tszyu winning the fight?
We'll see on the fight prediction video.
Okay. No, I mean, he definitely has to be wary of Brian Mendoza. Mendoza has gotten a couple of big wins, like I mentioned before, Rosario, Fundora, and he's resilient. He's been in the ring with some other opponents that he come up short against as well. But Brian Mendoza's been at 54. He's moved up to 160 to fight. I just think he's a dangerous guy to be in the ring with, and not a guy that you would want to overlook because, in my personal opinion, he's going to be a little bit different from Tony Harrison. Now, in my opinion, Tony Harrison is by far the better fighter when you compare him to Brian Mendoza. However, I believe that Brian Mendoza is a lot more durable than Tony Harrison. And so that durability may carry the day if Brian Mendoza can just, sustain, be able to deal with the attack or the assault coming from Tszyu. If he's able to sustain and to mount a counterattack, we'll see. I mean, the fight could get interesting because both of these guys, they're going to throw leather, right? Brian Mendoza is used to moving forward, so is Tszyu. So they're going to meet in the middle of the ring and they're going to throw some leather. Now, again, I personally think Brian Mendoza has just as much punching power as Tszyu. I don't think Tszyu is like his daddy. I think he can punch, but I don't think he is like a hellacious puncher. And I think Brian Mendoza has the same level of power, if not more, than Tszyu. So it'll be a very, very interesting fight. And if Brian Mendoza can land, the fight will get very, very, very interesting. So I don't believe that Tszyu should be overlooking this opponent at all. Now, maybe he's not. Maybe he's not overlooking them at all. Maybe this is just a product of the conversations that he's having on each one of these platforms. Maybe that's the case. I do not know. But we're not hearing a whole lot about your fight with Brian Mendoza, even when it was announced. Thereafter, interviews with Fight Hype, Fight Hub. You're not talking a lot about Brian Mendoza. You're talking about Jermell Charlo, who's up at 168 pounds. You're talking about Canelo Alvarez. You're talking about Terrence Crawford. Even at one point, he was talking about Errol Spence moving up. You talked about everything other than Brian Mendoza. So that's where I have a little bit of concern, Jay. But you guys tell us what you think in the comment section in regards to Tszyu and Brian Mendoza. Is it possible that Tszyu is overlooking Brian Mendoza? I don't know. I hope not. But it will definitely be an interesting fight on Saturday night. And I don't know. Maybe we might host a fight party. It'll only be for that specific fight, though. It definitely won't be 3 or 4 hours. But who knows? We'll see. You guys let us know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.